guys! Chapter 13 is called Good Progress. This is kind of a long chapter, so sit back, relax, and just let me do all the work. It's called Good Progress. Far into the night, while the other creatures slept, Charlotte worked on her web. So remember, Charlotte is trying to save Wilbur's life, and she's writing these cool words in her web. Do you remember what words she wrote first? Can you remember? Do you remember what word she was going to write next? Terrific. Let's see what the good progress is. First, she ripped out a few of her orb lines near the center. She left the radical lines alone, and they were needed for support. As she worked, her 8 legs were a great help. So were her teeth. She loved to weave, and she was an expert at it. Remember, an expert is someone that's so good at their job. Like you guys are experts at being students. When she was finished ripping things out, her web looked something like this. So there is her web. A spider can produce several kinds of thread. She uses a dry, tough thread for foundation lines, and she uses a sticky thread for snare lines and the ones that catch hold insects. Charlotte decided to use her dry thread for writing a new message. If I write the word terrific with sticky thread, she thought, every bug would come along and will get stuck. Now let's see. The first letter is T, terrific. Charlotte climbed in the top of the left-hand side of the web, swinging her spinnerets into position. She attached her thread and then dropped down. As she dropped, her spinning tubes went into action, and she let out thread. At the bottom, she attached the thread. This formed the upper part of the letter T. Charlotte was not satisfied. However, she climbed up and made another attachment right next to the first. Then she carried a line down so that she had a double line instead of a single line. It will show up better if I make the words with double lines. She climbed back up, moved over an inch to the left, touched the spinnerets to the web, and then carried a line across the right, forming the top of the T. She repeated this, making it double. Her 8 legs were very busy helping. Now for the E. Charlotte got so interested in her work, she began to talk to herself, to cheer herself on. If you had been sitting quietly in the barn cellar that evening, you would have heard something like this. Now for the R. Up we go. Attach, descend, pay out line. Woo! Attach. Good. You got it. Repeat. Attach, descend, pay out line. Woo! Girl, steady now. Attach, climb, attach. Over to the right. Pay out line. Attach. Now down right. Swing to the loop around and around. Now to the left. Climb, repeat. Okay. Easy. Keep those lines together. Now then, in and out of the legs. Now we're on to the R. Pay out line. Woo! Attach, ascend, repeat. Good girl. And so, talking to herself, the spider worked at her difficult task. When it was completed, she felt hungry, and she ate a small bug that she had been saving. Then she slept. The next morning, Wilbur rose and stood beneath the web. He breathed the morning air into his lungs, dropped the dew, catching the sun, made the web stand out clearly. When Lurvy arrived with breakfast, there was a handsome pig over him. Wovenly neat in the block letters was the word terrific. Another miracle. Lurvy rushed to call Mr. Zuckerman. Mr. Zuckerman rushed to call Mrs. Zuckerman. Mrs. Zuckerman ran on the phone and called the Arabelles. The Arabelles climbed in the truck and hurried over. So you ready to see what the web looks like? Terrific! How cool. She's so sweet. Everybody stood at the pig pen and stared at the web and read the word over and over while Wilbur, who was very terrific, stood smiling. Terrific, breathed Zuckerman in a joyful admiration. Edith, you'd better phone the reporter on the Weekly Chronicle and tell him what happened. He will want to know about this. He may want to bring a photograph. He may want to take a photograph. This isn't a pig in the whole state. This is a terrific pig, and it's our pig. The news spread. People had journeyed to see the Wilbur when he was some pig, but now they're going to come back to see the terrific pig. That afternoon, when Mr. Zuckerman went to milk the cows and clean up the pen, he was thinking. "Lurvy," he called, "there is to be no more cow manure thrown down in the pig pen. I have a terrific pig, and I want him to be clean with bright straw everywhere in his bedding. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," said Lurvy. "Furthermore," said Mr. Zuckerman, "I want you to start building a crate for Wilbur. I've decided to take him to the county fair on September 6th. Make him a large crate, paint green, and write gold letters." "What will the letters say?" asked Lurvy. "They would say, 'Zuckerman's famous pig.'" Lurvy picked up a pitchfork and walked away with some new straw. Having such an important pig was going to mean plenty of extra work that he could use. Below the apple orchard, at the bottom of the path, was the dump where Mr. Zuckerman threw all sorts of trash and stuff that nobody wanted anymore. Here in a small clearing hidden by young elders and wild raspberry bushes was an astonishing pile of old bottles and empty tin cans and dirty rags and bits of metal pieces and magazines. Templeton knew the dump, and he liked it. There were good hiding places there, excellent for a rat, and there was usually a tin can with food still clinging to the inside. Templeton was down there now, rummaging around. When he returned to the barn, he carried in his mouth an advertisement that was torn from an old magazine. "How's this?" he asked, showing the ad to Charlotte. "It says crunchy. Crunchy would be a good word to write in your web." "Just the wrong idea," replied Charlotte. "Couldn't be worse. You don't want Zuckerman to think Wilbur is crunchy. He might start thinking about crisp, crunchy bacon and ham. That would put ideas in his head. We want to advertise Wilbur as a noble and have lots of qualities, not tastiness. Go get another word, please, Templeton." The rat looked disgusted, but he sneaked away to the dump, and back he came. "How's this?" he said. "It's a label off an old shirt." Charlotte examined the label. It said, "Pre-shrunk." "I'm sorry, Templeton," she said, "but pre-shrunk is out of the question. We want Zummerman to think Wilbur is nicely filled out, not all shrunk up. I'll have to ask you to try again." "What do you think I am, a messenger boy?" grumbled the rat. "I'm not going to spend all my time chasing down the dump for advertising material." "Just one more, please," said Charlotte. "I'll tell you what I'll do," said Templeton. "I know where there's a package of soap flakes in the woodshed. Is there writing on it? I'll bring you a piece back." He climbed to the rope and hung to the wall and disappeared through the ceiling. When he came back, he had a strip of blue and white cardboard in his teeth. "There," he said. "How's that?" Charlotte read the words, "With new radiant action." "What does that mean?" asked Charlotte, and who had never used any soap flakes in her life. "How should I know?" said Templeton. "You asked for words, I brought them. I suppose the next thing you want me to do is fetch a dictionary." Together they studied the soap ad. "With new radiant action," repeated Charlotte slowly. "Wilbur!" she called. Wilbur, who was asleep in the straw, jumped up, ran around. I want to see you in action. I want to see if you're radiant." Wilbur raced to the end of the yard. "Now back again faster," said Charlotte. Wilbur galloped back. His skin shone, his tail tight. "Jump in the air," cried Charlotte. Wilbur jumped as high as he could. "Keep your feet straight and touch the ground with your ears," called Charlotte. There he is, doing what she's asking him to do, to see if he's radiant. "Do a backflip with a half twist in it," cried Charlotte. Wilbur went over backwards and twisting all about. "Okay, Wilbur," said Charlotte, "you can go back to sleep. Okay, Templeton, the soap ad will do, I guess. I'm not sure Wilbur's actions are exactly radiant, but it's interesting." "Actually," said Wilbur, "I feel radiant." "Do you?" said Charlotte, looking at him. "Well, you're a good little pig, and radiant you shall be. I'm in this thing pretty deep now, so I might as well go to the limit." Tired from the romp, Wilbur lay down in his clean straw. He closed his eyes. The straw seemed scratchy, not as comfortable as the cow manure, which was always delightfully soft. So he pushed the straw to one side and stretched out in the manure. Wilbur sighed. It's been a long day, his first day of being terrific. Dozens of people had visited the yard during the afternoon, and he was just there to stand and pose and look terrific as he can be. Now he was tired. Fern had arrived and seated herself quietly on her stool in the corner. "Tell me a story, Charlotte," said Wilbur as he lay waiting for the sleep to come. Tell me a story. So Charlotte thought, okay. Once upon a time, she began, I had a beautiful cousin who managed to build her web across the stream. One day, a tiny fish leaped into the air and got tangled in the web. My cousin was very much surprised, of course. The fish was wild. My cousin hardly dared to tackle it, but she did. She swooped down, threw great masses of wrapping material around the fish, and fought bravely to capture it. Did she succeed? Asked Wilbur. It was a never-to-be-forgotten battle, said Charlotte. There was the fish, caught only by one fin, and had his tail wildly thrashing and shining in the sun. There was the web, sagging dangerously under the weight of the fish. How much did the fish weigh? Asked Wilbur. I don't know, said Charlotte. There was my cousin, slipping in, dodging out, beating miraculously over the head of the thrashing fish, dancing in, dancing out, throwing her threads and fighting hard. First she threw a left around the tail, the fish landed back. Then a right to the tail in the middle section, the fish lashed back. Then she dodged one more side and threw a right and another right to the fin. Then a hard left to the head while the web swayed and stretched. Then what happened? Asked Wilbur. Nothing. The fish lost the fight. My cousin wrapped it up tight. It couldn't breathe. Couldn't budge. Then what happened? Asked Wilbur. Nothing, said Charlotte. My cousin kept the fish for a while, and then, when she got good and ready, she ate it. Tell me another story, begged Wilbur. So Charlotte told him another cousin of hers who was an acrobat. What is that? Oh, very stretchy. Stretch their legs. My cousin used to do this all the time, especially in her thread. Then she'd let it go and be lifted into the air and carried into the warm wind. Is this true? Or is you just making this up? It's true, replied Charlotte. I have some very remarkable cousins, and now, Wilbur, it's time for you to go to sleep. Sing something, begged Wilbur, closing his eyes. So Charlotte sang a lullaby. This was the song she sang. I'm not a singer, so please excuse me. Sleep, sleep, my love, my only, deep, deep in dung and the dark. Be not afraid and be not lonely. This is the hour when frogs and thrushes praise the world from the woods and rushes. Rest from care, my one and only, deep in the dung and the dark. I don't know how to sing. But Wilbur was already asleep when the song ended. Fern got up and went home. I am not a singer. I'm just a teacher that reads. I hope you liked this chapter. Yeah, Wilbur, he's getting a lot of words that describe him in Charlotte's Web. What a great friend to want to save his life. I hope you enjoyed this chapter, and I'll be back tomorrow. Bye, guys.